If you've come after having watched my review of the first game, simply called Yesterday, then welcome. If you haven't, I advise that you do that, and you'll find the link to that video in the description below. You don't have to watch it, but if you do, this review will make more sense, since both games are connected directly with one another, and I will be comparing them in order to see if the problems from the first game have been fixed here. With that being said, let's move on with the review of Yesterday Origins. First and foremost, as is tradition on this channel, I will inform you about the game's lack of support for ultrawide. Yep, still no such option. As you have probably deduced from the game's name, it shows us the origin story of the protagonist from the first game. It does, however, also go beyond that, so it's simultaneously a prequel and a sequel to the original game. In other words, a part of the things that happen are in the past, while another section of the adventure is in the future. This was a good choice here because it fixes a lot of the narrative problems from the first game. For starters, the time it will take you to beat the game is extended significantly. It took me about 11 hours to beat this one, which is 3 times more than the original game. That's definitely a good thing, since the story here is actually even better than the first time around, and for once we see some proper character development and also interesting side characters. Unfortunately, the story is so ambitious that even with its now much longer gameplay, it still seems a bit rushed and short in the grand scheme of things. Explaining this will require a few more details about it, so I'll switch to some other aspects of the review and then return to the story in more details right at the end. The first thing I want to mention here is that this game actually comes with Denuvo DRM. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because this DRM is really expensive. The current prices for AAA titles go in the hundreds of thousands of euro for limited licenses. For independent developers, they charge tens of thousands. Obviously, those prices would have been a bit lower back in 2016 when this game came out, but I can't imagine the difference to be that significant. I couldn't find any concrete information about it from back then. If anyone is better informed, let me know in the comments. I would like to know what they could have paid for this back in 2016. In any case, the developer decided to invest a ton of money on this crap instead of investing it into the actual game and making it better. Oh, and guess what? I checked, and the game was cracked on the same day it was released. Money well spent there, I am sure. Don't get me wrong, I'm just annoyed at this because the game has potential. This could have been so much better if this money that was spent on DRM had been used more intelligently and had flown into the development cycle. In any case, for those of you who want to own their games, I am happy to report that you can find Yesterday Origins on GOG.com free of any DRM for €1.49, which is really cheap. Another red flag was raised as soon as I booted the game and was shown a message that this game is best played with a controller. And let me repeat this, a point and click adventure is best played with a controller. Major red flag. Obviously, they were trying to appeal to the people who play on consoles exclusively with this one, which was in my opinion a very bad move, especially because those players are not the core audience for such a game. When you devise a product, you have to try to appeal to as many people as possible. That makes sense, but you should never focus on that aspect of the product and try to make it most attractive for the smallest group of people that would like to consume it. The point is, these controls are bad, and they're bad for everyone. When you interact with objects and places, you have to hold your left mouse button and drag it left and right in order to look for hotspots, which you can then click. It feels really bad, and it's shocking to me that nobody said anything during the whole development of the game. Not to mention that combining and using items is just as bad. You click on the item or point of interest that you want to use or interact with, then the game zooms in on it. Then while examining that item, you click the next one. If the order is good and you have been looking at the correct hotspot, the game will let you combine them. This is probably where your ears twitched a bit. Yes, you heard that right. The order matters. You can see me trying to combine a thread with an arrow and it does not work, but combining the arrow with the thread works just fine. And here's another example of it, where I'm trying to combine a parchment with a leather tube, which doesn't work yet again, but combining the tube with the parchment magically works. The game wants you to do things in an exact order, otherwise it just won't work. This is obviously really bad because people will get confused. I've played point and click adventures where the puzzles are as logical as the ramblings of a madman, but the combination mechanics still worked in all of them. We have been spoiled to rely on this, and for me, the first time this happened, I assumed my idea was simply wrong and never tried the other way around, because why would you? If I can't combine by selecting first the thread and then the arrow, it makes no sense that this thing will work if I select the arrow first. Why would it? After half an hour, I resorted to a guide, which helped me realize that the game is stupid and it's not my fault this time. And speaking of guides, remember how the first game offered you this really nice hint button so that if you got stuck, you could click it and you'd get a hint as to what to do next? I praised that feature and I jinxed it because it's gone now. Clearly the developer decided that the game was too short, so it was best to try to trick the players into playing the game longer by not helping along the way. Cheap move and ineffective too. Once I realized this game is bullshitting me with its nonsense mechanics, I played it while reading the walkthrough till the end. Better this than being stuck due to some other nonsense that I couldn't have predicted. And lo and behold, there was more nonsense. Sometimes you are expected to interact with the same point of interest multiple times before the story can progress. There is no indication of this. It's not like other hotspots disappear once you have interacted with them and confirmed that they are useless. No, all of them remain, but you are simply expected to try them all multiple times before something happens because you tried the specific one they want you to interact with multiple times. In all fairness, some other games do this too, but it's always something we players frown upon. If you've watched my review of the first game, you will probably remember that I lamented the fact that the animations were essentially just snapshots which fade to black between different motions that they're supposed to simulate. This time around, the developers made an effort not to do this anymore. Well, almost. It happens once or twice, but for the most part, the cutscenes and interactions are animated properly. It makes for a better experience overall and is a welcome improvement. Unfortunately, some of the older problems are still here. For example, small parts of conversations are sometimes muted, meaning that our character will talk and then suddenly you won't hear the voice actor for one of the sentences. Then he'll talk again after that. This could be a bug or simply a consequence of last-minute changes to the dialogue, which led to a few quiet lines since the voice actors were not there anymore. Who knows? From what I have read, this game was released as a buggy mess. People had disappearing items, which blocked progress. They had bugs with the gamepads if they decided to use them, and of course bugs with the mouse controls. If you go into the Steam forums, you're going to read so much of it. And it seems that for the longest part, these issues were left unaddressed. But at some point, very late, they got patched so that the game is now playable with almost no problems. Something that I personally found irritating was the fact that after each item usage, interaction, conversation, etc., the game would make your mouse cursor disappear for a second and force you to wait for it to reappear before you can do anything else. It's really annoying and doesn't seem to serve any purpose other than slowing the player down. Again, they had promised a longer game and they would do whatever it takes for them to be able to say that they delivered on that promise. I've read the Steam forums and I know I'm saying this for the third or fourth time now. I'm not the only one who's annoyed by this as well. It seems like here the whole idea, at least that's my impression, is to make the player slow down. To slow down everything artificially so that people don't say, hey, this game was really short, because through these tricks you lose a few seconds here, a few seconds there. This does stack up to more and more. One final thing that was strange was the fact that when talking to someone, our protagonist will often repeat a line at the end of every segment. It seems like a bug to me. It's not how real people talk, and I doubt they were trying to create a logical transition into the next question, although it could be that, but if it was, I must say that it's done very poorly. If you pay attention to the screen, you'll see how after every interaction, our character basically repeats the same line and then you can pick another question. Now on to the strongest argument in favor of the game, its story. I will tell you a bit about it without spoiling anything. The game is a direct continuation of the previous one, where it was established that our character cannot die, at least not permanently. This is not a spoiler for that game either, since it's revealed really early on. Although when it comes to a game which lasts only 3.5 hours, that being the first game, early on can be very subjective of a statement. In any case, the story here shows us how it all came to be. Introduces characters from the past of our protagonist's life, while it also develops his relationship with some of the other characters from the previous game. It also explains how the immortality works, making it all click at the end of the game. It's satisfying and definitely worth experiencing. This time around we also take control of our protagonist's girlfriend, although I have to say that this is not utilized well. In good adventure games, whenever you have to use multiple characters, it's done in an interesting way and often used as a tool to develop their relationship a bit further as well. Here that's not the case. They never work together in any way. They don't have skills that complement each other. The most you do is trade items on a few rare occasions, but that's it. It's really a wasted opportunity if you ask me. On the other hand, the game looks better and feels much more fleshed out. The story really appealed to me, and it's sad to see that 4 years have passed and no other game has been developed in this universe. Point and click adventure games are few and far between nowadays, with the best modern ones I can think of being the Deponia games. Yesterday has huge potential and with a bit more love could have developed into a really good game. It's still decent now, but where it fixes a few old issues, it adds many new ones to the table. It's not like I'm against trying new things, but they have to at least be sensible things. You can't simply reinvent the wheel. The point and click adventure genre has its name for a reason. Anyway, with all that having been said, the question on everyone's mind should be if this game is worth playing. The answer is a mixture of yes and no. The story is good and the characters are mostly likable. The voice acting is very good and the bugs aren't that bad anymore. It currently costs €1.49 on both Steam with Denuvo or on GOG without absolutely any DRM. With such a price, I'd say it's totally worth it. The puzzles are mostly logical with a few exceptions for the reasons I mentioned above, so a guide is still advisable. Other than that, I think that people who enjoy these types of games will definitely be able to scratch that itch with Yesterday Origins. One final thing though, if you haven't played the Deponia series, do yourself a favor and finish that first. I've played through all the 4 games twice already and can't bring myself to play them again for a review, so let me give you a short version of it right here and right now. It's excellent. Deponia is an excellent point and click series. Try it, you'll thank me later. The 4 games cost next to nothing on both Steam and GOG and are so worth your time. And once you are done with that, then perhaps you could top it off with Yesterday and Yesterday Origins. I want to thank you at this point, if you are still here, for having watched this video. I'm thinking of playing a vampire story next, so I'm looking forward to that review, but no promises. I'm the kind of guy who's like, I want to play this, and then something else attracts my attention. But I very well might. The game is extremely capricious and getting it to run on modern systems has been a nightmare. A vampire story is quite old, but I think it's a really good game. I think I'm gonna enjoy it. I've had it for a long time and kind of forgot about it. If you ask me, getting it to work was the hardest part. Now that I have it there, a review is definitely gonna be worth it. And if I do make that review, I would be happy to show everyone the steps that I took to make it work on modern hardware, because I've checked the Steam forums and people are struggling. In any case, I hope you will watch that review as well when it comes out. Thank you for watching this one again and have a great day.